jumping off place. Port of embarkation, secret. Transports, secret. Outfits, secret. Destination, secret now, but Japs and Nazis will soon remember it forever. Manpower, the strength and courage of a nation's fighting men. Firepower, the wallop they pack with weapons and explosives. Firepower tried and tested in Ordnance proving grounds. Planned and supervised by Ordnance officers in the 25 Army and Navy arsenals and thousands of privately operated plants, where 1 million workers produce over 2,000 complete items. Items innovated, developed by long and careful research, and perfected by Ordnance men with technical experts and specialists. In Washington are the headquarters of the departments entrusted with these prime essential war jobs: Army and Naval Ordnance. Army's Chief of Ordnance, Major General W.H.P. Campbell, who is responsible to Lieutenant General Brehon v. Sommervell, Chief of the Services of Supply, and Under-Secretary of War Robert P. Patterson. Rear Admiral W.H.P. Blandy, Navy's Chief of the Bureau of Ordnance, Under-Secretary of the Navy James V. Forrestal. Few realize the immensity of Ordnance's job. This battleship requires well over 10,000 pounds of firepower for one broadside. In the Coral Sea and at Midway, the Japs lost 4 aircraft carriers with all their planes, 3 cruisers, 4 destroyers. 3 battleships and numerous cruisers and destroyers were severely damaged. It took almost 240,000 pounds of bombs and torpedoes. This mechanized division requires 1,200,000 pounds of firepower for one day's fighting. To possess superior firepower means survival and victory. To lack it means ultimate defeat. Somewhere over the mountains of Yugoslavia, airborne supplies, dropped in canisters attached to parachutes. Chetniks, guerrillas fighting under General Draja Mikhailovich. There are 150,000 Chetniks under his command, men who are sworn to death before surrender. Made in the United States of America. Because of these deliveries, 20,000 square miles of Yugoslavia still remain unconquered. The other 76,000 square miles are occupied by German and Italian troops. This is Bosnia, where the henchmen of Ante Pavelic, Hitler's puppet premier, murdered more than 300,000 men, women, and children. Countless families have been driven from their homes and now wander and starve and die along these picturesque roads. No one dances in Yugoslavia today, unless the ghosts dance in the ruins of the marketplaces. Czechoslovakia, too, was a beautiful country. Free, prosperous, educated. A country that modeled its form of government after ours. The Sokol Patriotic Physical Culture Congress, attended by 100,000 people. Exactly the number of Czechs now in Nazi jails and concentration camps. Forbidden to carry guns, Czechs are also forbidden to call upon God to protect them. To shrines like this, they now climb to pray in secret. Some 500 people lived in this town. To the glory that was Greece, the proud memory of its ancient culture, has come a new glory now. The hopeless, gallant stand its poorly armed soldiers made against Axis armies. Constitution Square in Athens. When the Greeks were free, this was a park. The Nazis have made it a cemetery. The people of Norway, a people that loved peace, but were not strong enough to protect it. Many in these scenes are now corpses. In Poland, over 1 million have perished of starvation, disease, hanging, shooting, the gas chamber. That is the fate of a nation when it loses its weapons, when its people are defenseless, incapable of firepower. But Poland fights on from its headquarters in London. All the occupied nations fight on. And American labor is giving them the firepower to fight with. In Connecticut, Americans with Polish names are creating firepower for our own Army and Navy so that America will never know the anguish of occupation. And firepower, too, for the 200,000 Poles in exile fighting with Britain and Russia. From our government arsenals, bombs for ourselves and for the 3,000 Polish aviators flying with the RAF. 1/4 of the German planes shot down in the Battle of Britain were attributed to them. Americans of Czech extraction produce shells in Ohio. Firepower for the thousands of Czechs fighting and dying on the battlefields of Russia. Americans with Greek names forge gun barrels in Illinois. Refine copper in Utah. Copper for rotating bands. Firepower for the 2 brigades of Greeks serving in the Middle East. Firepower for the strong Greek naval units, shipmates with the Royal Navy, a cruiser, 3 destroyers, 3 torpedo boats. The American sons of Norwegian pioneers, they are lumberjacks in Washington, wood fabricators in Maine, paper for powder containers, for primer linings. Firepower for the hundreds of young Norwegians raiding with the English commandos. Workers with names like the Yugoslavian hero, General Mikhailovich, smelt metals in New Jersey, puddle steel in Pennsylvania, mine coal in West Virginia. Good Americans of German and Italian lineage, producing firepower to drive the dictators from the countries their forefathers once called home. We have much to do for others, more to do for ourselves. Men and women called Smith, Jones, and Brown. Men and women who work with skill and care and ask themselves these constant questions. Would I put this gun into my own son's hand, into my sweetheart's hand, into my brother's? Some of the jobs in mill and mine and forest are hard, but American labor sticks to them and produces, despite the attractions of softer work elsewhere. It knows that it must stick, so that America can create the greatest firepower in history. Firepower for the exiled Dutch, for the fighting French. Firepower for our new ally, Brazil. Firepower for those who first felt the blows of the Jap. The soldiers of Chiang Kai-shek. Firepower for all our English-speaking allies. A common tongue, a common cause, and a common pledge of sweat, blood, and tears until victory is achieved. Firepower for the people and fighting men of Soviet Russia, who have killed and captured more Germans than all the other United Nations put together. And beyond and above all this, firepower for our own American soldiers and sailors and Marines and flyers, leaving the ports of embarkation to all the far-flung battlefronts. With them, they carry the weapons American labor and American industry have given them to fight for freedom. The firepower to win this war. The firepower to win the peace. The firepower to smash the fascists now and forever. The firepower to set the rising sun.